Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
This is Steffi.
And Michael, or MJ.
MJ.
Very nice to meet you.
So we are here and we're really delighted that you joined us today in today's webinar, which is all about marketing efficiency and how we streamlined our marketing process. And MJ will tell you a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. So today we would initially, I just introduce ourselves a little bit, who is Frontify, and then MJ would take over, really talk about the challenges he had with marketing within Frontify. So what were they struggling with and how they solved it. And then we give you a quick demonstration on how we actually did it and how it could look like. And in the end, we do a short question and answer.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Sounds great.
Brilliant. Then we start. So who is Frontify? Hopefully at this stage you know a little bit about us, but just to give you a few facts, I won't keep you too long. So we're still a Swiss company. So we're here in beautiful St. Gallen, which is a really nice city. We were founded in 2013. And we have offices now in St. Gallen, our headquarters in Frankfurt, Germany, and in New York, which is really exciting news. And at this stage, we are over 85 employees. So we're growing quite rapidly, and MJ will come back to this. And this also, you know, this decentralization of the different subsidiaries is, of course, always a big challenge. So just to give you a little bit of insight of who our clients are. Voila, that was a bit too quick. So we have clients in all kind of segments. We are sector. We're not depending on an individual sector. So we have really whoever has a strong brand should work with Frontify. So there are some of them here, but they really come in all sizes and country locations. So what we do or what drives us is really we try or we do create the best and most user-friendly brand management platform, a platform that really enables anybody in the organization to deliver compelling and consistent brand experience. And MJ will come back to exactly this point because that's exactly where Frontify can help, you know, driving internal and external processes across the board. So what is Frontify? So it really consists of these different modules. So we start off with the kind of foundation, which is the style guide, which is all about, you know, your rules, your regulations of the brand. We go further in the documentation part with different libraries. So the media library, where you have all your media assets, your imagery, your videos, your iconography, your logos, the pattern library, so have all your digital aspects as well. To the workspace, where once you've then, you know, the first three modules where you're really working on the documentation, you now then start to use all these assets by working together collaboratively in the workspace, creating new projects, giving feedback, and having approval workflows. And then our newest addition is the publisher, where you really enable then anybody in the organization to create own brand collateral, but we show you that.
Thanks, Steffi. So I'm going to continue with a short introduction of a couple of problems that we have been facing, and then also like that I have been facing in my former jobs where Frontify wasn't around. And now, as Steffi also said, like with increasing offices or number of offices, increasing number of employees, there are certain things that we need to further align and make sure that we're all on the same page. And this is where Frontify actually helped a lot. And it's great that we have this in-house solution for all what we needed there. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of challenges and going to tell you what kind of pain points we had and how we solved them. And Steffi is ultimately going to show you that like on hands within the product itself. So challenge number one was basically decentralized assets. So we try to increase efficiency through libraries and guidelines. This sounds straightforward, but it's actually like the pain points we had there was that there was no reuse of the copy that we had, and we try to use the same copy to be consistent in our communication, for example, on the website, in presentations, or also in white papers. So we basically used our guideline solution for that to create kind of a text library there. Then another thing that was basically the approval state of assets, which was not always visible. You could imagine, for example, logos and stuff that designers create, and you never know if you can use them already or not. And then having basically review and version control on all the assets, really jumping back into the conversation, what has been discussed, where restoring an old asset, etc. So this was always a mess, and an area where we basically use Frontify's guidelines as for the text library, as said before, but also our other libraries like the media library, the collections within the media library, where we basically have all the assets, the brand assets at one central place, which are tagged, where I can use a smart search, where I can have like conditional facets. I could, for example, say I want to have all the white papers in a specific language in the short or long version, and I will get back the result immediately. And then collections, which help a lot to basically bundle all the assets, for example, illustrations and so on. So I can quickly download a package and use it for the presentation that we have created here, or like screenshots, etc.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah, definitely. It saved me some time here as well. Then challenge number 2 is the project organization itself. And here we increased efficiency through centralized projects. Basically, the pain points are, I think, obvious to everyone. It's about having one single place where you have and can manage all the projects. So not only the ones that I am running, but the people in my team and also like in other teams within Frontify. Then design reviews that were not done centrally in the past. So you had, or you could imagine having feedback coming through Slack, through email, some stuff that had been discussed like at the table, which is fine if you're small, but if you have several locations, if you have more and more employees, you want to have that all at the central location. And this is basically where we use our own workspace and the feedback functionality. So I can leave feedback on a specific point on a screen, or like on an area, or even entire screen. I can mention people, I can ask for feedback, I can ask for approval, etc. So this is really helpful, jumping also into other people's project within Frontify to see what they are working on, and yeah, to have everything at one single place, including the feedback. And this is also what I mentioned before, like really being able to go back in time, seeing, for example, who has mentioned what in the past, because you might have projects that run slightly longer than you would have expected, and there is different stages, for example, of feedback on visuals, then on copy, etc. And it's great that you can maybe go back 1 month and see what was discussed there.
Yeah, I think that's really, really helpful.
Then the next one is basically approval processes. So here we used or increased efficiency through our own workflows. And basically the tool also forced us kind of thinking about the approval processes that weren't always in place. So you could imagine that you have like different types of assets or brand assets that you create, and for some that are strategically important, you want them to be approved by, for example, me, or even like our CEO, because it has some kind of importance, or our brand manager. And then there are other things where you don't want to have like a very sophisticated approval process because it slows you down. So we basically use our workflows there, but I'll show you how later on. Cool. The other thing is, like, along the workflow, you usually have the issue of how you want to trigger updates. So like usually it's walking to a person's desk asking about the status and so on. And here we can really trigger updates automatically. Okay, and we can use also like our workflows, predefined workflows. So this could mean, for example, if I want to have a sophisticated workflow, I would predefine a workflow with the stages, who is going to have the ownership per phase, what kind of tasks we want to run within the phases, etc. I can assign those tasks to someone, and we can really reuse those workflows.
That's cool, especially as well if you work in different time zones, so you get much more efficient then.
Absolutely, and also like again, it forces us to rethink our approval processes and the workflows that we internally use and make them more efficient over time also, because it's very easy to change them over time, add lanes, add tasks, and so on. So we reiterate on that, and it's actually like a current challenge that we're still working on. Then challenge number 4 is basically design rollout, so increase efficiency through publisher. And usually you don't have, like, you have a lot of people within the marketing department that have design knowledge, but not as much as a like full-fledged designer, of course. And we spent a lot of money basically also on the different licenses per product. So you would have everyone to have installed InDesign and Sketch, etc. And so there you have some costs. Then you basically cannot really see what people create out of the templates that you provide them. So you have like a lack of consistency there, and like a lack of guidelines. And it's kind of a cumbersome process of publishing stuff, because there is a lot of back and forth, email, like people doing creative briefings, coming back with like ideas, changing stuff from the template, etc. So it can get nasty really quickly. And this is where we brought in Publisher basically. So Publisher now allows us to have a template which is done by a designer, uploaded to Frontify. Either an InDesign file or a Sketch file. And then the designer can basically say what users are allowed to change afterwards. So they're based on the guidelines in terms of color, in terms of the font that is used, etc., and in terms of the images that are like available to be used within the screen or the visual. And we basically then define what people can do within the team and what they can't. So you could, for example, imagine let's say a summer campaign, or like the one you are going to show us later on, where you want to create an image for social media, and you want people to use the right format and the right image and everything, but you want to give them kind of a guidance what they can change and what they can't. So it's really also like for a non-designer, I know it's kind of abstract right now, but once Steffi will show you what I mean, it's going to be clear. So it's really also for non-designers easy to create visuals in an efficient way.
Cool.
And I think like after those challenges, I think there's nothing new in there. You know exactly what I'm talking about if you're marketing or any related function. But I think it's great that you now show us through the product.
So
and through everything I just said, but like hands-on, and we can see what I meant by that.
So I just quickly changed my screen here. I opened up my browser, and I would really go through the demonstration now based on the challenges MJ just talked about. So I would first go through more the library part, the guideline part, you know, where you find things, then go through the collaboration and workspace part, and then show you quickly the publisher a little bit as well. So again, we use for this webinar, we use our mono brand. I don't know if you know it from previous webinars. It's our own fictive brand we created for exactly showcases and webinars. So you might not recognize this brand, but so don't worry. So if the user, so for example, I would be now a marketer in MJ's team, I would go to our brand portal first of all to find out more information about, you know, about how the brand works, what are the guidelines around the brand. Again, we have this entry page, which is quite nice. Again, we can tease here different aspects of the brand portal in this cover page already. Then I could navigate into the brand itself a little bit more, you know, get some more information about, you know, about the brand itself, about the mission, which is very important, but also find out more about the brand logo, how it's used, for example. Find out more about the colors as well, which are my brand colors, which should I use, which shouldn't use. Again, there is some information about, you know, when I come then to creating designs, etc. for going back to this campaign we have maybe for Facebook, you know, how should the imagery look like, what would be, what should the light be, etc.
And something that we don't show here is basically also the copy and the copy library that you could create within Frontify, which is very easily, and you could use, for example, or write down descriptions, long, short versions of your company and the products, etc. So you can really make sure that people use those text snippets in their communication to make it more consistent.
And it's really much more efficient than with these text snippets. It helps so lot. But
totally agree.
I heard in the next upcoming webinar, which is all about our rebranding, which is upcoming, we will show you our new brand portal as well. And we will showcase all these text libraries and document libraries as well.
Yeah, I would have loved to show you them already because I'm super excited, but I wasn't allowed to. So yeah.
So here as well, we have our own logo library. So the user could really first go through the text snippets to the logos, find the right logo, download logo packs, for example, go further to the icon library, navigate, find the right icons, download some icon packs maybe as well. Then navigate further to all the media assets. What you mentioned here, you have assets you can search for now. You can drill down on the different metadata. We can include, for example, other stock providers here as well, but I just look for maybe because we want to have a summer campaign, glass. Maybe have somebody with sunglasses on and have here asset I could download now straight away in the different file formats, different sizes, etc. So make it really easy for the users to stay consistent. I have here the different tags as well available. And as MJ already said, my super user also promoted here a collection already for the new campaign of assets we could use or should be using. So this is kind of the first part of all this documentation area. So the next thing MJ talked about was, working really collaboratively on new designs, creating new designs. And for that, I'm gonna move out here a step. And this is now our brand space, which you get when you have Frontify with all, firstly, I was here in the guidelines area now. And now I move over to the project area. And I can really easily create now a new project, and a project can be everything from a one-to-one collaboration up to a big project or program you want to handle. And to create a new project, you just have the new link, call it, let's say Facebook campaign FY19. We base it on a guideline that's very important. We choose a role in our project organization, and then we choose a workflow template, and then come back to that in a second. Once we create that project, again, it's a really clean look of Frontify. So it's based now on a style guide. It does not take over all the users from the style guide. So you would kind of create your project organization from scratch. And to invite people to this project now, it's really easy. Oh, voila. You just type in the email address, and here we have MJ. You give the person a role. Each role is linked to a permission set. Again, we have here a specific role, the reviewer. Now I make MJ an editor. Again, I have here the possibility, if you're working with freelancers, you could give temporary access, and you can invite these people now. Now, the first thing MJ would do when he comes onto the platform, he would set his notification settings, and these are very granular here because a project is something very dynamic as well. We can handle all the project communication via Slack, for example, which is very efficient. So you could have a Slack channel per project, which is quite cool. And then you could really start working here now collaboratively. Now, the first step, let's say I am, Michael is my agency, for example, and I'm the client. So I would firstly upload a little briefing. Let me see. And MJ would be automatically notified now, so I don't have to send this briefing out via email anymore, but he would be notified straight away. So there's a briefing up, come and read me. So you would go in, have a look at the briefing, Just go one step out, which was one step too many. Sorry. And now he would start, creating some designs. He would go back into the guidelines, look up, how should we design? What's the principles? Get different assets from that design principles. And then he would, because he's really fast, he would create some wireframes and then some designs. And for that, he could create a smart folder in our workspace with the status on it and upload some first designs here.
So the beauty about this smart folder is basically whatever asset you drop in there gets the status you have predefined on the folder level. So like now it was, I think needs approval, and whenever Steffi drops something in this file folder, it gets automatically the status as well.
Absolutely. So I was now notified that MJ dropped in the first file. Just on a side note, if you're working with Sketch, you don't even have to upload anymore. So you can sync directly from a Sketch file. Also, you can host source files in here, of course, like your InDesign or Sketch files to live here as well. And I was notified now that this first design is here, and I could open that now, and I could start now a discussion about the design in my discussion board on the right-hand side. So I could give general feedback, or I could really say, this area now is a bit bright, and we looked at the design principles that shouldn't be the way. So I do an add mention at MJ and say, please change according to guidelines, and create that. So MJ goes back, reads the guidelines in more detail.
As I should have before.
Yes, absolutely. And then would go in and changes in his Sketch. Now I'm gonna upload a revision here manually. And let's see. And change it here. Now you always have a time and version stamp, which is really powerful. So you know always what was decided. So you have the entire life cycle history of each asset here available, which is quite powerful. And then I was notified he could now define a reply to that. But for me, it's fine now. It's updated. So for me, I mark it as resolved. And then it disappears out of the discussion lane. I can always go back to the resolved items as well. So I have the whole history of the communication here as well. And again, what you said before, going back a month after the project was closed to see how the decisions were made is really hard. But here you have the full history available at your fingertips. And now, I could go and ask approval, maybe from my line manager, who I haven't invited here, who incidentally is Michael as well. And I say, please approve, and assign it to him. There could be more people than one, of course. And I want to set this to completion in my workflow, which I come to now in a second. And I can also set the completion date until he has to approve it. Now, what this approval workflow is about, and I just step out one slide more. If we go back to this folder view where we uploaded the screens, I have another possibility to have here a workflow view. And this is really what MJ mentioned about, having these workflows, creating them, putting them onto paper, and having really formalized them to be then more efficient, because you can only make something more efficient but what is really defined. Obviously, we give you a default workflow here, but you can totally customize that in a few steps. So you can add lanes, you can have different status taken out, then you could define ownership for each lane, and you can, and this is what MJ mentioned before as well, for each lane, say for example in the needs review lane, I'm the owner, for example, and then every time an asset comes into the needs review lane, there are also some multiple tasks kick off to different people, like check spelling, check colors again, etc., to different people, maybe to the interns or whatever. So this is something you really have a grade of automation here, which makes it much more efficient. And then what you do, once you define your workflow, you give it a name and save it as a template so you can reuse it. And you can have as many templates as you wish for each project type, a different template, for example. So let's say we have now approved everything and then goes into the approved lane. So the next step would be we create a template out of this. And for that, I could create another project because there are different people involved. So I call it the Facebook template. Again, I create a project very easily again. And now I gonna not upload files, etc. I could also create my project organization, but this time I just have gotten the source file from my agency now. It's a template and it is in sketch form. We can also support InDesign. And what I do now is I don't have either InDesign or Sketch on my machine here, and most of the marketing people don't really have them or don't want to have them because they're expensive. So what we can do here now is we just drop a file in. Just go out a step. And I drop in the sketch file we have created now together with the agency. And what Frontify does now, it out of the sketch file or the InDesign file, indeed, it creates a version, a Frontify version of this template. It keeps the source file and it always keeps on communicating with the sketch or InDesign server. So that's really important because in the end, we're going to export it again. So this way it makes it in web or print, completely print ready as well. So I go now into this template. I have now a viewable version, which I can view as well without Sketch. And I say I'm a key user, I'm a Micah's team. And now I want to set some rules around this template because it's really pretty and it's consistent. So I want the people to use it in a consistent way. So once I go into the edit mode, I can show the layers view. And I can start now defining the different rules for the different layers, okay? So for example, I wanna enable my people in the business to change the image. I could restrict the image now to certain images in my media library. For example, I wanna have the sunglass item again. That's one of them. But I can select some more. So this is absolutely up to you. Get some more images. So let's say we let them, or you could really have it open. So you can really let them decide which image they want to use. So this is something you can decide. We can then go onto the different layers. So for example, you might want to allow them to change the color here. Again, this is all interlinked now to the guidelines. So it's interlinked to the media library, to the documentation of the media library. It's interlinked to all my guideline stuff, to all the colors, to all the typography. So it's all coming together now. That's why we had to do the documentation first. Again, here I can see the different colors I can choose, but I really want to allow them only to use maybe the green for this campaign, not more. And so I could go through every layer now, and then when I'm finished, I could publish this template, and I call it, what do we call it, 19 Facebook campaign. I could select a category, let's say social media, and I publish it. Now, I have to appeal onto your imagination a little bit now, so I switch roles completely now.
So you're not a designer or brand manager anymore?
Absolutely not. I'm a marketing communication manager in our new New York office. And I want to create a publication for my new Facebook campaign. So again, I create a project which is called Summer. Again, I go through the process. Again, I'm the project manager and I create it. So what I can do now, and I can create a publication. Obviously, I'm as a marketing communication manager, I wouldn't see this option here of a template. I can create now a publication out of the ones I just published. And we wanted to use that one. I call it Facebook Summer. And I create that. Now, if I go into the layer view, you see straight away the ones I can actually change. And I do not have much options here, but I could have much more options. This is all depending on my super user team. So I definitely don't want to change that. I want to replace the image. I would like to use my sunglass image, for example. Again, I have the whole, I can really pick from all the assets I have either defined or out of the media library we've shown you before. So I can select that asset, then I can say, oh, this is not right yet, so I could crop it a little bit. And more in focus. Again, I could now change the other layers if my super user would allow me, but he's not. And then I could really go to download the asset. Now in the Sketch version, you can also you can obviously download PNG or JPEG. In the InDesign version, we would then go back to the InDesign server and bring it back the print-ready PDF, fully bled version of it as well. So I could also have another approval loop going if you want that, or I have my really ready asset here completely ready. And you know, there are so many use cases for that. You know, we use it for business cards, for the different translations of the fact sheet, white papers. So it's
for all the social posts, etc. So it's really powerful. And as Steffi has mentioned before, it's really not just about publisher or about workspace or about workflow or about the guidelines, but really everything coming together, which is super helpful and super powerful.
Yeah. So we gonna have not much time for Q&A.
Yeah, I think we run quite late, to be honest.
But I tell you what, we take all your questions offline and come back to you on a one-to-one. If you can always drop me a line as well, Stephanie@frontify.com.
Yeah, same here, MJ@frontify.com.
So we're always there, and I would really recommend the upcoming webinar, which is, I think it's upcoming a couple of weeks, and it's about the rebranding and to really showcase the whole TechSnippet stuff, and it's very exciting. Our new portal, our new website is coming up as well, so stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Stay tuned. Thank you.
Bye-bye.